The rapid response of the Indian scientific community against the menace of COVID-19 viral disease, which spread from Wuhan, China in 2019 to every corner of the globe, is without parallel in historical terms. But so has been the challenge, given the devastating loss of life in India and around the world, that nothing short of this effort is required. In fact, since the second COVID wave hit our country in April 2021, the resolve to fight this disease has been intensified by the government and the private sector. India's institutions, both public and private, have leveraged on the core strengths of science and technology, major innovations and breakthroughs in the shortest possible time. These include COVID detection kits, medicines for treatment, preventive protocols, scientific ways of managing the disease, ramping up oxygen supply to developing vaccines in record time. India has over 130 crore people, and in the last 4 months we have vaccinated over 20 crores of our citizens, or over 200 million, a count increasing each passing day. This is a huge achievement, but given India's population, the Government of India has resolved to increase the rate of vaccinations with a target of vaccinating most of the country by the end of 2021. In this episode of Science for a Self-Reliant India, we take a close look at the new COVID-19 vaccines which have been approved, like the Russian Sputnik vaccine and the indigenous ZyCoV-D COVID-19 vaccine, which is nearing its phase 3 trials and likely to go into production in June 2021. We also look at the building blocks of these vaccines and how they differ from Covaxin and Covishield. We bring you details of the 2 recent emergency approvals by the Drugs Controller General of India, DRDO's anti-COVID oral drug 2DG and Zydus Cadilla's Virafin, which is given as a single-dose injection for treating moderate COVID-19 infection in adults. It's now an established fact that the most potent weapon that we have against the COVID-19 virus are the vaccines, as they produce protection against the disease as a result of developing an immune response to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Developing immunity through vaccination means there is a reduced risk of developing the illness and its consequences. This immunity helps the body to fight the virus if exposed. When someone is vaccinated, they are very likely to be protected against the targeted disease. But not everyone can be vaccinated. People with underlying health conditions that weaken their immune systems, such as cancer or HIV, or who have severe allergies to some vaccine components, may not be able to get vaccinated. But they can still be protected if others around them have been vaccinated. When many within a community or geographic area have been vaccinated in large numbers within a given period of time, the pathogen or virus cannot spread as easily, and this breaks the virus chain, curtailing the infection spread. This process is broadly called herd immunity.
We're also learning from all the different clinical trials of the vaccines that have been undertaken, especially the vaccines that are now approved for use, as well as from the rollouts that countries are doing in their populations. And they are actually studying, the impact that these vaccines are having on their populations. And so what we've seen so far is that the majority of the vaccines are extremely effective at preventing severe disease, hospitalization and death. And that's true across all of the vaccines that have been studied so far. So that is really important, and that's what we want. We must also remember that the more people get vaccinated and build up their immunity against the virus, the less the chances of the virus replicating, growing, increasing and spreading from person to person, and thereby we're actually reducing the chances of more mutations and more variants.
Covaxin and Covishield vaccines are both at the forefront of India's fight against COVID-19. while Covaxin has been fully developed in India by Hyderabad-based pharmaceutical Bharat Biotech in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research and the National Institute of Virology. Covishield, on the other hand, is a vaccine developed by Oxford University in the United Kingdom and pharmaceutical firm AstraZeneca. Its India partner is Pune-based Serum Institute, which is manufacturing the AZD1222 vaccine in India under the brand name of Covishield. Both these vaccines work as two-dose vaccines administered weeks apart. The second dose, also known as the booster shot, is given in order to get ongoing immunity against the disease. They are also injected intramuscularly in the upper arm muscles. Both these vaccines do not require sub-zero storage, no reconstitution requirement, and are ready liquid presentation in multi-dose vials and remain stable within 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. The time interval between two doses of Covishield vaccine has been extended from 6 to 8 weeks to 12 to 16 weeks, while the second dose of Covaxin can be taken 4 to 6 weeks after the first. Covishield is a viral vector vaccine that uses an adenovirus found in chimpanzees to deliver spike proteins and thus produce a tolerable immune response to a new live virus. Covaxin, which is developed and produced by Bharat Biotech, uses an inactive viral strain. It makes use of a dead virus that triggers an immune response. To ensure the safety of the citizens and to make an all-out effort to defeat COVID-19, the Government of India has recently approved Russia's Sputnik V vaccine and also fast-tracked approvals of other international vaccines. Sputnik V is an adenovirus-based vaccine and differs in its composition from Covishield and Covaxin. Sputnik V is also known as Gam-Covid-Vac. It is a combination of two different adenoviruses, AD26 and AD5, which are the viruses that cause the common cold in humans. These adenoviruses are combined with SARS-CoV-2 for treatment, which prompts the body to make an immune response against it. One of India's leading pharmaceutical companies, the Hyderabad-based Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, will be manufacturing this vaccine in India. The Sputnik jab uses two slightly different versions of the vaccine for the first and the second dose and are given 21 days apart. In Covishield, a chimpanzee adenovirus CHAdOX1 has been modified to enable it to carry the COVID-19 spike protein into the cells of humans. This cold virus is basically incapable of infecting the receiver but prompts the immune system to prepare a mechanism against such viruses. The vaccine is made from a weakened version of a common cold virus known as an adenovirus from chimpanzees. It has been modified to look more like coronavirus, although it can't cause the illness. Covishield and Sputnik V have been prepared using the viral vector platforms, which is a totally different technology than that used for making Covaxin. Covishield and Sputnik V are both adenovirus vaccines, while Bharat Biotech's Covaxin is an inactivated virus vaccine.
Covaxin is on a traditional platform which is inactivated viruses. On that platform, number of vaccines have been developed and used in the past. However, Covishield and Sputnik V are completely new platform-based vaccines. These have a part of the viruses carried through various form of vectors. So, the part of virus is taken on the vectors, which in the case of Covishield is adenovirus, and in case of Sputnik V is a human adenoviruses. So, role of these vector viruses is to take the antigenic part of the coronavirus in human body, and that is where the human body will recognize it, start immune reaction, antibody will be formed. So, both vaccines provide antibody or immune protection to the individual even before person becomes sick.
Inactivated virus vaccine are composed of dead or inactivated viruses and bacteria and therefore differ from live but attenuated vaccines which have a very low viral load. Covaxin, for example, is an inactivated virus vaccine, which has been prepared on a tried and tested platform of dead viruses. To create Covaxin, Bharat Biotech used a sample of the coronavirus isolated by India's National Institute of Virology, Pune. Covaxin has been made from inactivated coronaviruses, making it safe to be injected into the body. When administered, immune cells can still recognize the dead virus, prompting the immune system to make antibodies against it. Covaxin is also given in 2 doses about 4 to 6 weeks apart. Polio vaccine given to children is a common example of inactivated virus vaccine. Similarly, flu vaccine and rabies vaccine are also inactivated virus vaccines. Covishield and Sputnik V are vector-based vaccines. They use a safe virus to deliver specific subparts called proteins of the germ of interest so that it can trigger an immune response without causing the disease. To do this, the instructions for making particular parts of the pathogen are inserted into a safe virus. The safe virus then serves as a platform or vector to deliver the protein into the body. The protein then triggers the immune response.
Virus invades our cells, right? That enters into our cell and delivers the genomic material, let's say DNA, into our cell. And then it hijacks the cellular machinery, our own cellular machinery, for their own benefit actually. And what it does, it makes our cells to transcribe and translate that DNA, for example, and make the protein out of it. So in case of vaccine, they will make protein which is, let's say, spike protein, right? So our cells start producing lots and lots of spike protein, and those spike proteins are recognized as foreign entities by our immune system, and that's how our immune system develops the antibodies and immune memory against those proteins.
So basically, both Covishield and Sputnik V are viral vector vaccines which employ an adenovirus vector. The vector is a virus that carries a piece of the novel coronavirus to the human cells. There, the piece sets off a chain of reactions that ultimately produces an antigen specific to SARS-CoV-2, which invites the attention of the immune system. All vaccines have the same basic goal: to train the body's defenses to recognize and respond to a specific threat. So what are adenoviruses? Adenoviruses are extremely common viruses that infect humans at any time of the year. In humans, adenoviruses generally cause mild respiratory infections like common cold and sore throat. Conjunctivitis or inflammation of the lining of the eyes is also caused by a type of adenovirus. Adenoviruses are medium-sized viruses with a double-stranded DNA genome. Their size ranges between 90 to 100 nanometers, which is about 0.1 millionth part of 1 centimeter. Adenoviruses were first discovered in the human adenoid tissue, which are located behind the nasal cavity, in 1953 by Rowe and his colleagues. Adenoviruses are considered excellent vectors for delivering large genes or vaccine antigens to mammalian hosts because of their capability to induce immune responses. These viruses are isolated from a wide variety of mammalian species, ranging from chimpanzees to human beings. There are 52 types of adenoviruses that specialized blood tests can distinguish. Currently, adenovirus-based vaccines are being developed and clinically tested on a wide variety of diseases, such as tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, and malaria.
Again, so adenovirus vectors, that's basically just a virus vector only. But here we use a specific family of viruses to develop those vaccines, right? And the family, it's called adenoviruses family. So that's it's a kind of ubiquitous and very common virus. It's a big family. Let's say if we talk about human, there are around 88 different serotypes of this virus, which are present that can infect humans. And they generally cause a very mild infections, like you have a common cold or a pink eye, that sort of infections they cause. So we use those sort of viruses, adenoviruses, to develop vaccines. So we do same thing what I explained to you before. We just modify them and make them harmless, insert the gene of our interest, which will produce the antigen against which our immune system will develop the immune response.
There are several benefits of using adenovirus vectors for transferring viral antigens into host cells to trigger desired immune responses. For example, because of the relatively large-sized, well-characterized genome, which is the genetic material of an organism and consists of DNA, adenoviruses are easy to manipulate genetically because they cause mild infections in humans and their viral replication can be inhibited or stopped by genetic modifications. Adenovirus-based vaccines are mostly safe and have very few side effects. To vaccinate a significant percentage of India's population in a short span of time requires large manufacturing capacities and extensive logistical and storage infrastructure, which only multiple entities can provide. India has two more promising vaccines in the pipeline. Ahmedabad-based Zydus Cadilla's ZyCoV-D, which is likely to start full production in June 2021, and Pune-based Genova Biopharmaceuticals HGC019. Zydus Cadilla has been supplying products to combat COVID-19, including COVID testing kits and the recent emergency use approval of Virafin, which is an anti-COVID drug. Virafin is given as a single-dose injection for treating moderate COVID-19 infection in adults. Clinical trial results have established that 91.15% of patients treated by Virafin were RT-PCR negative by day 7. The treatment also significantly reduces the hours of supplemental oxygen required for the patient. Significantly, Zydus Cadilla has developed a COVID-19 vaccine called ZyCoV-D. This would be the second indigenously developed vaccine against the novel coronavirus after Bharat Biotech's Covaxin. ZyCoV-D will complete its phase 3 trial protocols, which has included over 28,000 volunteers shortly, and is likely to start vaccine production once it receives the necessary approvals. ZyCoV-D is a DNA plasmid vaccine, which is a radically new approach to vaccination. While the vaccine does use genetic material to get an immunogenic response in the body, it is not using the mRNA or messenger RNA. Instead, it uses the plasmid DNA. Plasmids are small circular pieces of DNA that replicate independently of the host's chromosomal or main DNA. They are usually found in bacteria. Scientists have been using plasmids in their labs for various purposes, such as to monitor the level of chemicals in a particular environment or produce certain specific proteins.
Zydus Cadilla is producing DNA vaccine. So that is for the first time in the world we will be producing that kind of a vaccine. And the beauty of that would be that whatever mutants have been found, which are happening because you're not able to contain the virus, and it can code directly for the protein. So it's prone to errors because there is no proofreading kind of a correction mechanism which is very efficient in the virus. So more and more mutations get added up to it. The beauty would be that any mutant which will arise in the population, you can still raise this accordingly and antibodies would be generated for this.
The other vaccine which is in the pipeline is by Pune-based Genova Biopharmaceuticals, which has received regulatory approvals for human clinical trials of its indigenous mRNA vaccine. This vaccine is likely to be available in early 2022. While vaccinations are preventive, the need of the hour are also oral or injectable medications that help to cure and halt the disease. Medical protocols for COVID-19 are still evolving, and there are few drugs specifically for treating COVID-19. The Drugs Controller General of India has recently approved the anti-COVID oral drug 2-DG or 2-deoxy-D-glucose for emergency use as a supplementary medicine to treat COVID in moderate to severe coronavirus patients. The drug has been developed by the Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences, or INMAS, a leading laboratory of the Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, in collaboration with one of India's leading pharmaceutical companies, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories in Hyderabad. The clinical trials of 2DG have showed that it helps in faster recovery of hospitalized patients and reduces supplemental oxygen dependence. The 2DG medicine comes in powder form in a sachet and is taken orally by dissolving it in water.
The world needs more number of vaccines because we want to vaccinate as much population as possible, early as possible. And that's why the newer platform, older platform, accelerated research, but keeping in the mind that safety, efficacy is not compromised at all. World is working together, and this could become possible because governments took the responsibility upon themselves. They started investing on vaccine research and development. I think what has happened in the last 15 months has taken the vaccine research and development by a decade ahead. If this pandemic was not there, probably this much progress would not have happened. So while we have suffered a lot in the pandemic, there is a silver line that it has started the process of accelerating research and development vaccine, and that need to be continued.
In the next few months, India's and indeed the global fight against the eradication of COVID-19 virus will intensify as better medicines are developed and we ramp up the manufacturing of vaccines. But the second COVID wave has taught us never to let our guard down, given how fast this virus spreads, if we are careless and refuse to pay heed to simple scientific steps that prevent its spread. So it's essential to wear double masks, keep a fair distance from others, sanitize and wash hands regularly. From a government perspective, the need of the hour is to significantly increase vaccinations and build a robust healthcare umbrella to protect its citizens from any future COVID waves. From the perspective of science and self-reliance of India, this phase in our history teaches us how important it is to boost scientific innovations, strengthen our pharmaceutical and manufacturing sector, just to name a few. All these steps add up to the larger goal of an Atmanirbhar Bharat.